So the cable industry has seen a lot of growth in the last year. Could you talk us through some of the key stats?
Yes, with pleasure. I mean, here at Cable Congress, we release our key stats every year, and we've announced a 5.5% revenue growth this year, which is really fantastic if you consider the overall economic environment. What is also very interesting is that the part of the revenue that is generated by telecom services, so broadband and internet, that has grown and is now reaching, I've quickly checked my numbers, 45% of our revenues, which is really fantastic if you consider where our industry was 10 years ago. In terms of subscriber growth here as well, we have good numbers, 8% growth for telecoms and internet services, and overall the RGU, the revenue generating units, have grown 3%. So again, a fantastic achievement, I think, for our sector. And finally, the last very important metric, which we always show, is digital TV. And here there's been a tipping point in 2012, is that the number of subscribers that subscribe to the digital service is now higher than the analog service. So digital TV has actually overgrown the subscribers, the analog subscribers. And finally, a very interesting point here is that although the digital TV subscribers is a little bit more than half of our subscriber base, the digital TV revenues are 70%. So each additional digital TV subscriber we have generates a lot of an amount of revenue, and that explains, of course, also the growth figures.
So how significant do you think that digital tipping point is for the industry, especially going forward in the next few years? Is that momentum going to continue, do you think?
Yes, of course, there's a huge potential, because if we have for the moment only 52% of our subscriber base who is digital, you still have to convince, the other half. Some will remain analog, some will actually leave cable as well, as we know, but overall, we have other services to offer to those who stay with cable. So it's only going forward in a positive way, I think.
Okay. And as the industry continues to grow, what are your kind of main priorities in terms of regulation?
As a trade body, Cable Europe indeed is very much, involved in the regulatory developments in Brussels, and I would give maybe 2 or 3 priorities. First of all, we're constantly saying to the decision makers in Brussels that cable plays a role in the rollout of next generation access networks, that we are a future-proof network. I think there's a lot of evidence of that. We continue investing in our platform, and because of that, sometimes that means regulation needs to be adapted. The second big, I would say, topic which we are very active on is copyright. So the whole way of how cable operators actually deal or clear their rights with collecting societies such as PRS in the UK, or you have collecting societies in every country, and we're quite involved in improving the governance of the collecting societies. Now, there are a much wider discussion around copyright relating to pan-European licensing, etc., which we are very much involved in as well.
Okay. And there's been a lot of discussion in the last 2 days about convergence between the telecoms industry and the cable industry. How do you kind of see that in terms of regulation? How's that going to play out?
Well, I think it's very much a topic widely debated in Brussels for the moment, because what happens is that the European Commission sees that the big telcos are not investing enough in new networks, whereas they see smaller players such as cable upgrading their networks with our technology. And I think there is now more and more a perception in Brussels that this infrastructure competition between telcos who own their infrastructure and cable operators who own their own infrastructure, that type of infrastructure competition is quite a good way forward, not necessarily abandoning the wholesale access type of regulation, which allows a service-based company to use the telco's network to deliver their services. So they will not abandon that type of regulation, but they might soften it a little bit, which is good for cable, because it will give at least a signal to the market that this infrastructure-based competition is, accepted, one, and secondly, encouraged.
Okay. And just in terms of consolidation in the industry, there's still thousands of cable players in Europe. could you see more deals taking place this year and in the coming years?
Well, it's been a big topic in this conference, obviously, because of the major deals that have been announced. But how this will go forward, I suspect it will set a trend. But there are indeed a lot of very, very small players still around, which seem to thrive and still coexist next to these big groups. And we'll have to see how the future goes and how this consolidation will indeed move forward.
Okay. And just finally, what are your impressions of the conference here this year, and how important is this event for the industry?
It's been a great event, really. I think every year, obviously, we say it's the best event ever we've organized, but I think we can be very proud of this event. We've a record number of delegates, 900, if my numbers are correct. Yes, 900. We also have 30 exhibitors, which is also a record. London must have played a role here. Everybody was so excited to be in London, but it's also, I think, a recognition that this sector has a relevance for the whole community. The vendors, the content sector, and obviously the operators. So, a fantastic 3 days, and looking forward to the next year's event.